these are players that we personally won't touch in Dynasty leagues. Whether you touch them or not, you can touch whoever you want to technically, but we're not touching these guys in Dynasty leagues. And we also maybe would go as far as, that's the wildest thing I've said in the first 5 seconds of the video probably ever. Yeah. We would probably go as far as saying that we're selling these guys off of our own Dynasty teams. We're going to give you our best case as to why, our takes on these players. It's up to you to decide if you're not. You can see the confetti on the table. Thank you guys so much for 40,000 subscribers. We love you. We appreciate you. Drop a like on the video. It is a big milestone.
Big deal.
Drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed as well. Let's talk about Nico Collins. Nico's a very interesting one because when you're talking about Nico from a production standpoint, actually he hasn't been that bad. You know, he's been a top 10 wide receiver the last couple of years. And when he's not playing the full season from a points per game perspective, he's been pretty consistent. Now, the thing with Nico Collins is I think that when you're talking about him turning 28 next year, if he does put together another season where he either doesn't play a full season or he puts together a season where Jaden Higgins emerges or doesn't score as many touchdowns or CJ Stroud takes a step back, all very possible things. What do you think is going to happen to Nico's value?
He'll be a mainstay at that point.
And so, you know, it's kind of another categorical take where we think he's going to go from being a foundational piece to a mainstay piece. But when you're looking at where he's ranked from a market value perspective right now, he's still the wide receiver 13, according to Keep Trade Cut. When you're looking at the Flock consensus rankings, the expert consensus rankings, he is still the wide receiver 13 as well. So, like, I mean, he's still ahead of Igbuka, Ladd, Luther Burden, Rome, T. Higgins, Brian Thomas, Zay Flowers, Marvin Harrison Jr. I would bet a decent amount of money that a couple of those guys are going to be valued higher than Nico Collins next year. Yeah. And again, there's just a lot of avenues for Nico Collins to lose value, but I think the main argument for this is I think he's just getting to a point in his career where it's going to take a lot of production for Nico Collins to maintain top 3 round startup value. I think Nico Collins is going in the 4th, 5th round next year. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it honestly is the same argument that we had for Jonathan Taylor in the early offseason when he was going 2-3 turn, and now we've seen JT fall to the early mid-4th round, and that really is, in our opinion, where Nico probably should be priced, whereas in a lot of startups, I've seen Nico go as high as the mid to late second in a lot of startups, and at that point you're just begging for a value loss immediately.
Yeah, let's use the Flock comparison tool and do a blind resume here, Nathan. I want you to see if you can figure this one out.
Ooh, yay.
You know one of them is Nico Collins. 15.1 points per game versus 14.7 points per game. Wide receiver 10 versus wide receiver 11. By the way, the ages 27 now and 28 now. They're a year apart or less.
T. Higgins.
Nope. 8 targets versus 8 targets a game. Target share 24 versus 28. Receptions 4 versus 5. Receiving yards 74 versus 66. Receiving touchdowns 0.4 versus 0.47. Yards per target, obviously Nico's is higher, 10. Yards per out run, Nico's is higher, 2.3 to 2.1.
Is it Devonta Smith?
Nope.
Dang, nah. 27.
20. This is a 28-year-old wide receiver I'm comparing it to. So
he's 28.
Nico's 27,
okay,
AJ Brown's 28.
Oh, A.J. Brown. Okay,
A.J. Brown.
I thought the guy was 27.
And where is A.J. Brown valued in Dynasty right now?
He's a mainstay level guy.
And he's in the 5th round. And so that's exactly our point. A.J. Brown last year was the wide receiver 11 in PPR leagues. I think that's about where Nico Collins will be.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown is now in the 5th round. Nico Collins is in the 3rd round. The point being, when you have wide receivers get to this point in their career, they typically just naturally lose value. I think that Nico Collins could still be a wide receiver 1. However, if I'm talking about a fringe like high-end wide receiver 1, low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, there's a couple guys I think have that upside that are ranked below Nico that I think are naturally going to be ranked above him next year when you're talking about just the progression of wide receiver value over the course of their careers. Again, Ladd McConkey, I think, is a guy that has low-end wide receiver 1 upside. I think he's going to be more valuable than Nico next year when it comes time. Emeka Egbuka, I think he does have high-end wide receiver 2 upside. I think if he does put together a solid season, he could be more valuable.
We've at least been told by the market that they're going to prop up his value.
100%, right? Rome Odunze, I think somebody's easily could surpass Nico in value next year. I think it gets less likely as you go down, but T. Higgins, I'm more confident in, you have this.
I'm confident that Higgins and Nico will be very close in value.
That's kind of where I'm at as well, because T. Higgins is starting to get into that same conversation. T. Higgins turned 27. He's 27 and a half.
Yeah.
By next offseason, he'll be 28 as well.
Yep.
And so, in terms of Nico and how he plays, he's obviously more of a boom-bust wide receiver, and so I don't think the take is necessarily about him from a production standpoint, because when you're looking like week 9 and on this last year, you obviously missed a couple games in there. 14, 22, 24, 8, 21, 16, 23, 9, and 8. And so, again, multiple 20-point games there, 20-plus point games. That's obviously elite for your flex spots. But keep in mind, if you're doing a dynasty startup right now, you're drafting Nico Collins as the third most valuable player on your team. Yeah. That's really from a roster construction standpoint where it's like, okay, I think Nico Collins is a good pivot option right now to somebody else. So what moves would we give? I'm going to give move examples for each of these, and you're going to have to remember to do that as well. I would say down tier from Nico to Rome plus, T. Higgins plus,
Brown plus.
The AJ Brown plus. I think I think those are great moves. Pivots from Nico, I would go Garrett Wilson. I would even be willing to go Chris Olave, George Pickens if that's feasible in your league, but yes, I think Pickens is on the higher end of that. But we do see Nico move for Pickens in leagues occasionally. When you're talking about Igbukah and Ladd, I'm probably comfortable making that pivot as well. And if you're talking about up tier from Nico Collins, I'm trying to get to Justin Jefferson a lot right now, and I'm on Ross St. Brown. So those are two.
London.
And London's another good one. So those are the moves I would make from Nico Collins. Again, it's more just I can get that production and still not take the 2-round value loss that I think Nico's got coming this year. It's nothing against Nico as a player or a fantasy asset. It's more just playing his kind of career arc and the value changes that go with that. Probably going to pivot off of Nico here this offseason. We've been giving him as a down tier target a lot in team blueprints.
Yeah, the time has finally come for Zach Charbonnet to be, the running back one that everybody has hoped. And I'm kind of joking about that, kind of in a sad way, because I think as a prospect, when he was a rookie, Avery and I were very excited about Zach Charbonnet. He was my guy for Avery specifically. And what ended up happening is he, goes to a landing spot with Walker, another second-round selection the year after they draft Walker, and then he's in a committee for 4 years or 3 years. And what you really see is anytime Walker goes down with the injury, which is very often, Charbonnet gets his chance, gets his moment to be productive, and a lot of times he was very productive, but you do see just the athletic shortcomings for a guy like Charbonnet and what he's actually capable of providing for that offense. And to us, it really just does scream a guy who's going to have a pretty even split with another running back in that offense. I don't think that clearly the Seahawks were willing to pay what Walker ended up being worth after that Super Bowl run. I don't think that indicates to us in any way after what Walker offered on that Super Bowl run that they're just going to ride it out with Zach Charbonnet this year exclusively. Mm-hmm. I think that's the big thing. Yes, he's coming off the ACL, which is unfortunate because really what we would have expected from Charbonnet if he had not torn his ACL is his value would have spiked even more. It actually ended up maintaining, which that's pretty rare. We don't see that very often for a guy who got a significant injury towards the end of the season where he's going to miss probably the beginning of the season as a running back, didn't lose any value at all. He's actually, he's all but maintained. He's just outside the top 100 players where he is value equivalent to other guys like RJ Harvey, some productive vets like Derrick Henry, and well ahead of like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Swift, those types of guys. I think that's kind of the ultimate argument with Zach Charbonnet is heading into the NFL draft at the end of April. Are you confident enough that from rounds 1 through 7, the Seattle Seahawks are not going to draft significant competition for Zach Charbonnet? Because if they draft a running back in the top 4, dare I say 5 rounds, you've got significant, serious competition with Zach Charbonnet. Yeah.
They're going to.
I know they're going to.
100%. Yeah, I'm like 100%.
I tried to make it hypothetical so that people can think about it instead of me
pretty
just
confident.
Telling you.
Like, look, their top 30 visits are a huge clue as to the fact that they're going to draft a running back.
We've seen more and more mocks involving Jadarian Price and Jonah Coleman to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not saying those exact running backs will go to Seattle. Heck, it doesn't even have to be one of the top 2 running back prospects in this class outside of Jeremiah Love. It doesn't have to be one of those 2 guys for it to get really, really hairy in that situation. And if I'm being totally honest, the Seahawks, it does make the most sense for them to select Coleman or Price in day 2 of the NFL draft. It just does. And I'm telling you guys, once that happens, immediately, Charbonnet's value will decrease by 15 to 20%.
Yeah, immediately. At the drop of a hat, people are going to be a lot more apprehensive to obtain Zach Charbonnet on their team because why would they want to do that when there's any bit of uncertainty? Whereas right now is probably the best outlook you're going to get for Zach Charbonnet. Yeah. This is the most comfortable you're going to feel about his role. And the dude is coming off of the torn ACL. Like, it's as good as it gets, I'm telling you.
You can't expect this offense to go into the start of the NFL season. The ACL is the final nail in the coffin for me.
100%.
Because if it weren't for the ACL tear, we would just be playing the if and but game. Technically, we are, and some of you guys will accuse us of it, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, technically you're right, we're playing the if and but game. But do you really think they're going to go into the 2026 season with Zach Charbonnet on a torn ACL? Who is likely not to play? You know what that leads to? You know what that results in? Who's on that depth chart right now for the Seattle Seahawks behind Zach Charbonnet, who will be the lead running back since Charbonnet will not be there in week
Wilson
1.
Is the only guy
Literally
there.
Emmanuel Wilson.
That's the only guy there that could thretten him.
And Kenny McIntosh.
I don't think McIntosh is
and Cam Akers.
Okay, we can have that discussion again if we want to. No, it would be Emmanuel Wilson. If anything, if you want to take a shot on that backfield and you're confident that they're not going to draft a running back, more
Wilson.
power to you. Go trade for Emmanuel Wilson.
Yep.
In my opinion, because I think they're going to do that, Emmanuel Wilson would be the Kenneth Walker in that offense. Not that from a skill level perspective or a talent perspective, but from the angle that they're not going to give Charbonnet workhorse carries. This is just not happening, I promise you, especially not at the beginning of next year. And even if you go get Wilson and Charbonnet does end up taking a large share of that backfield, it's not going to happen at the very beginning of next year, and you would get a pretty significant value in. So while Charbonnet may be a sell, Emmanuel Wilson's actually a pretty good pickup right now in Dynasty leagues if you're paying close attention to that depth chart.
Yeah, and if you are going to up tier to a running back that we just feel a little more comfortable in, I think Javonte and Travis Etienne are two guys that we really like. If you want to take you could almost say equally risky shot for a way higher reward, you could up tier to Cam Scatterbo as well. Obviously, there's a talk of Jeremiah Love potentially going there. If you want to take on that risk and pay a very small premium, where the upside is a lot higher there with a guy like Scatterbo, then you could go for that. If you want a down tier, again, I mentioned a good number of guys here that are cheaper than Zach Charbonnet at the moment. DeAndre Swift, one of the big names, who I think is going to be just as productive. You can down tier to David Montgomery, who's kind of just thrown into a lead situation. You can down tier to Chuba Hubbard for all I care. I'm totally cool with that. If you want to pivot to RJ Harvey or Derrick Henry, go for those targets as well.
Yeah, I look, this next one, and again, I'm going to say this. These players, again, we don't necessarily gravitate towards having player takes necessarily. We like to play the market play value in Dynasty. And so, again, it's all about the player's price. It's all about the price. And for the right price, any player can be sold. And while we're giving you these tips, if the prices that we're listing in this video, which we're trying to find the happy medium between a casual league and a super competitive league, if the prices that we're giving you can't happen in your league, we're not recommending to sell these players. And so, again, it's sell these players because of their market value outlook for this price specifically. And if you can't, we're not saying sell at all costs and sell. Look, it's up to you to read into the nuances of the takes that we have on this channel. And if you think that when we're saying sell Nico Collins, we're saying sell him regardless at all costs because he's a bad player, again, I would encourage you to try to understand that it is not because it's not a player take, it's a market value take, and we're giving you a price that we're comfortable selling at. And if you can't sell for that price, then the advice really doesn't apply because it's all about price. That dictates all of our market value moves in Dynasty Fantasy Football. With that being said, this one I could care less about the price because at this point it's kind of a meme. Number one, it's a meme. Number two, we're just gonna die on this hill. We have already died once on this hill, and now
this is an aggressive hill.
They brought it. We didn't even die. We stood on the hill and nobody even touched us with anything. We just stood there and we were like, "You guys coming?" Okay, now they're coming back up the hill for us. And Nathan and I, if we have to die on the hill, we will. And it's Isaiah Likely to the New York Giants. And I just have one thing to say. And again, a lot of this is just, number one, a fun take. Number two, it's in jest. So if you get that bent out of shape about it, I touch grass and have some fun.
The people who get bent out of shape are why this is so much fun.
It's really fun because it's such a cultish following that Isaiah Likely has. It's all these people that have literally chugged copium for the past 4 years while Isaiah Likely has put together three wide receiver, tight end, 3 finishes. That's like impossible to do, you guys. Finishing as the wide receiver 45 in an offense, that is like impossible. And you're going to say, well, Mark Andrews. Did you see how they utilized Isaiah Likely there last year? I mean, dude, this guy was getting 50% of the snaps every game. So it's not like he couldn't have been productive. My point is this. We have said from 2022 and then 2023 and then in 2024 and then in 2025 that Isaiah Likely was somebody that we wouldn't touch. And after 22 and 23, it died down a lot and people weren't really into Likely anymore. Now everybody's into Likely again. And I get it. He got a 3 or $40 million deal. Look, I'll admit this. Does the money mean a little bit? Yeah, the money means something here. It's decent money. It suggests that he's going to have a role in that offense. But it's just hilarious how we approach the Isaiah Likely thing as like, oh, we get to see him finally unlocked from Harbaugh in a new situation in a new. I do have news. Just breaking news for you, Nate. You know who the coach of the New York Giants is?
John Harbaugh.
But the good news is we're going to be able to see him in an offense where Greg Roman is not on the offensive staff. Oh, wait. And again,
he is on the staff. He's not the OC.
It's a joke. Everybody's going to get mad about that. It's a joke, but it is Matt Nagy, which is even worse. Look, again, part of this is a joke. Take the joke. With that being said, can we put some respect on Theo Johnson's name? Let me talk to you about Theo Johnson last year. Obviously, second year out of Penn State last year. This will be his 3rd year in the NFL. And last year, the dude scored 127 PPR points. That's more than Isaiah Likely's ever scored. Okay, he had 74 targets. That's more than Isaiah Likely has ever received. Okay, he had 45 receptions. That's more than Isaiah Likely's ever gotten. So my point is here, I think Theo Johnson is not a non-factor in this offense. I do not think they're looking at Theo Johnson and saying this guy, we're just replacing him with Isaiah Likely. I don't think it's going to happen. And do I think Likely could carve out a pretty decent role there in the receiving game? Absolutely. I'm baking into Likely's price the fact that I think after his first 3 years, or first 4 years in the NFL, 5 years, 5.7, 6, 7.7, 7.7, and 4.4 fantasy points per game. I am factoring in that there's a legit possibility. In fact, it may even be likely that he has 10 points per game this year.
I can already see it in the comments. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that Isaiah Likely could be a top 12 tight end. Do you know what a top 12 tight end means? It means Dalton Schultz. It means Hunter Henry. It means Juwan Johnson.
Where are they valued at?
This is how bare the landscape is at the tight end position. It takes almost nothing to be a top 12 tight end. The only thing that matters is top 4, maybe top 6.
That's it.
And outside of that, if you remember the stat that we talked about at some point, I don't remember. I want to give credit to whoever said it, but I don't remember who it was. The gap between Trey McBride and the tight end 2 which was Kyle Pitts, was bigger than the gap between Kyle Pitts and Cade Otton last year.
Yep.
Cade Otton
tells you all you need
was
to know,
was literally like the tight end 22.
This is two things at once. This is stubborn Isaiah Likely take that we have for fun because we like trolling you guys. But also, it is illegitimate. Tight ends at his level will never be valuable in Dynasty. Yeah. And he has some value right now, and so we're going to move him.
The reason that it's worth talking about, I just want to give you a couple of trade examples from the trade database that we have.
They're all
on
insane.
The chat. Every single the most popular asset to trade away or trade for right now, based on all the trade questions that we've been answering on the site, which is a lot every single day, every single week, is Isaiah Likely hands down. And every single side involving Isaiah Likely is like, it's atrocious. Some of the trades that have gone down: Isaiah Likely and the 104 for Devon Achane. Isaiah Likely and Malik Willis for Kyler Murray. That's a little more fair. You're looking at Isaiah Likely, Parker Washington, Woody Marks, and the 202 for Brock Bowers.
Okay, stop. Dude, okay, I will say
that's a joke.
A realistic one. Like I've seen Likely move for the 110. I think 3 times.
Yeah,
legitimately move for the 110.
And I've seen Likely paired with a mid first round pick for a foundational level asset.
And then people will say, "Oh, that's not happening." You know how many trade questions we answer a day? Like, actually, do you know how many? It is happening. Like, where would we say it is? If it is, we would know. We're helping people out with these trades. And every time we get a Likely suggestion, a question about Likely, the trade is extremely lopsided. He's one of two things. He's either a piece that you can get a late first for, which is absolutely absurd bananas, and I know it's not happening in 90% of leagues, but in 10% of leagues, you are getting a first for him if you want to. That's actually truth. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing he is like the most desirable throw-in of all time right now, as you can see by what he's upgrading some of those assets to. You can upgrade the 104 to Achane with Likely. And I say again, that's not happening. It is, guys.
I like this one. Tet and Likely for the 102, 28 first, and Alec Pierce. 102 and Tet are already pretty close, and the 28 first and Pierce versus Likely is.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good. That's a more accurate market indicator of where Likely's at.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's fun to die on this hill. He's not going to have value in terms of who we would trade him for. Pretty much anybody in that range. He's valued right next to like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Swift, Michael Pittman. In a heartbeat, I would pivot to those guys. I'm only going to really give you pivot guys here. But again, if you want to throw Isaiah Likely in and try to get a big up tier at one of your premier positions, that's also a good use case for Isaiah Likely in a trade.
We have found generally there are 1 or 2 people in every single league who are very bullish on this guy to a point where they will overpay.
Every single league. And it's been this way for the past 5 years, by the way.
Yeah.
So again, if you're triggered by what I just said and what Nathan just said, we got you. Hook, line, and sinker. Sorry you fell for it. Let's go.
Yeah, you want to get over that because this next one's going to be a little bit fun too. Look, I'm going to preface this 26 late first with a lot of criticism that we got on the last video showing any iota of positivity for the 2026 rookie class and the strength that it has, which, by the way, we have been very clear has been the strength of 2026 since literally last October in 2025.
Hey, put in right here, clip from us saying literally in December that the wide receiver class is going to be the crown jewel. Clip play. If you have Dynasty rookie picks, I think the crown jewel of this class is going to be the wide receiver position this year. Now, it's not a historic wide receiver class by any means, but compared to the running back class, compared to the tight end quarterback classes, I think this is the best position group that we have for 2026 rookie drafts.
Guys, None of what we have said about the 2026 class has changed.
Nothing.
What we said is that the depth of the class is where it really falls short, and that's why the Z-scores are so low analytically, and that's why it's a below average class. And we said the star power up top, when you're talking about the first half of the first round, is just as solid as any other class. And that has reigned true. That has been correct. If you recall, one of the biggest moves that we've had most people do this offseason is selling their late firsts before the NFL draft, which is abnormal, so that you can kind of get ahead of people realizing that, hey, these late firsts are not nearly as good as what we're used to seeing. And that's gonna be the case here. We are now in April. We're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, and you still have a chance with the NFL draft coming closer. What happens every single year? Every single year, those firsts, like clockwork, gain value. And that's what's been happening with this class per usual in most leagues. Domain leagues are obviously different. What we've seen in a lot of domain drafts, which we've drafted before, we got some of those late firsts at a really, really, really crazy cheap discount because we knew that the closer we got to the draft, people would revalue those picks to where they generally are. And that still is the case here. Like, again, the wide receiver video that we talked about, I mean, heaven forbid we say anything positive about a class that we've been down on just to, honestly, partially to make you guys a little bit happy. We don't want to be Debbie Downers constantly about the class.
It's still fun to cover
it's
the
still
class.
Fun to
we're
talk.
Still allowed to say positive
We can
things.
still have fun with the rookies.
And can I say this as well? Because I think we get a lot of these guys, they fade the 26 picks and they draft them in startup drafts. I would say that example is literally the epitome of how we play Dynasty Fantasy Football. We don't like the assets, but we are absolutely going to take them well below market value. And even though we think they should be valued low, they're going past where we think they should be valued. They're valued so low that we know that we can flip them for a better price. Even though we don't like the picks.
And we also know that's not always the case in every single league. One of the biggest slaps in the faces I need every couple of months are we see so many domain drafts on live streams all the time that's kind of like we envision the value of those assets always being that, when in reality, I see it. I've had customers literally send me their non-domain startup drafts to show me where these picks and where a lot of these players are going, and it's drastically different. And in a lot of those leagues, those picks are being valued where they generally are every single year, and the return that you can get for a late first is what you can get every single year, which is a lot higher than in most domain drafts. So that's the big point here. That's the big case that I'm making. Again, if you guys are going to criticize us for saying, oh, I sold my first and I listened to your advice, and now you're being positive about some wide receivers in this rookie class.
Did you see the Jordan Tyson segment of that video, by the way? Like, that does not help this class.
For every riser in this class, by the way, for every Omar Cooper and Casey Concepcion, there's a Jordan Tyson and a Dante Moore who's not even in the class.
And a Chris Brazel who didn't grade out well. Like,
yeah,
nothing changed at all. Nothing. Like, guys, I sold my picks. I'm practicing what we preach on the show. Nathan is doing the same thing. Nothing changed, and we're going to continue to release videos about prospects we like, and because again, the wide receiver class is the one position out of 4 position groups that you're drafting in Dynasty rookie drafts that actually is average or above average this year. The rest of them are below average, which again,
we can still like individual prospects relative to the strength of the class.
Omar Cooper Jr. and Casey Concepcion stock up. That's great. They might go make the 106, 107 better.
Do you know where they'd be going in most classes? The late first.
That's the entire point, and it has not changed. So late first, again, still bye. And again, at this point, you might as well wait till you're on the clock, because that's when they're probably going to be at their peak value. Yep. They're already a little bit higher. But again, the problem is the firsts are so bad this year, and they've been valued enough that I've been fine selling firsts since January. Because in January they spiked too, and they've kind of dipped back down, and they're going to
go back up.
Regardless, 26 firsts have been a sell. If you sold them, you've only sold them for a good return. It's all about price again. So we're not saying sell them at all costs. Sell them for a price that's worth it. You have to know if you're selling a 26 first and you think that you can get a much better price during the draft, then don't sell the first. But if you can sell the 26 first in February and you can get as good of a price as you would on the clock in April, which does happen, by the way, depending on who you're trading with, then it's totally fine to do that. But regardless, we are not contradicting ourselves by saying positive things about a wide receiver class that was already being noted as strong well in advance when it comes to the 26 class and the strength of it. It's as weak a class as it was 5 months ago, and the wide receiver class is as good a class as it was 5 months ago.
We've literally always said the star power is good.
And we've up
top, it's just as good as any other.
We've always said the wide receiver class is good, and again, that's part of the more nuances in our takes. It's just like, you have to actually listen to the videos and not just scroll through them to understand. And so that's a big thing. 26 firsts are still a sell. They're going to be a sell. And if you want to trade them now and you get your return, you can. If you want to trade them during the draft, that's also fine. And I think Nathan would agree with this. I think part of the problem here with finding general sells in Dynasty is sells have become so team build and roster construction specific now that somebody who's a sell on one team is not a sell on the other. That's the case for us a lot of times. That is how intricate our process is when we're reviewing our own teams and trying to find who to buy, who to sell, who to hold. A lot of times a sell for one team is a hold for another team, depending on are they the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 5 on your roster. And again, we apply all of this logic when we give you a plan for your Dynasty team. If you don't have a plan, again, we give you your production share, your value share, your roster archetype and value archetype. We give you your positional grades. Then we give you trades that are based on all of that analytics, all of those analytics and all of that analysis. You also get infinite blueprint, a new blueprint every month. You're going to get all the site tools, the trade calculator, things like that, one-on-one access to Nathan and I. You'll get a rookie draft blueprint for your upcoming rookie drafts with every blueprint right now, plus all of the different tools that we have on the site, the Discord, the leads, etc. We try to make it the best we can. It's the best value for a Dynasty membership that we have and on the market, we think. And so if you join the community, you can get a free team blueprint. You can also get, again, everything that we offer with our membership. So come join the community. Let us give you a plan for your Dynasty team. Let us tell you what guys on your team you should be selling, because it's different for every roster. These are generally the most common guys that we're recommending selling on a large sample of the blueprints that we do. But for your specific team, you never know. And I do think it's worth getting a second opinion on, so you can check that out in the comments below. Matthew Golden's another guy that generally I think a lot of people are a lot more in on right now than they have been. And the reason for that is obviously because Romeo Doubs has gone to the Patriots. And so people are looking at this like, okay, it was Matthew Golden. It's Matthew Golden's season, breakout season. And I guess here's my thing. Some of this is just stubbornness from me, but and again, that's some of this video as well. And I'm totally fine with that. We're allowed to occasionally deviate from our process and have player takes and feelings about Dynasty, and this is just one of them for me. My gut is telling me on this one. My gut tells me this. When is the last time the Packers had a wide receiver 1? Davante Adams. Who was the quarterback?
Aaron Rodgers.
Who was the head coach?
Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur.
So
Matt LaFleur.
But that was a long time ago, dude. And since then, what have you seen? Packers wide receivers where there's 3 or 4 wide receiver 1s, quote unquote, from Matt LaFleur himself, where basically none of the wide receivers produce. Romeo Doubs has been a great example of that. He goes to the Patriots. He gets pretty good money. He's a great wide receiver player. He's 4 finishes in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. Wide receiver 72, 36, 56, and 37. Okay, you've seen guys like Christian Watson get lots of hype there. Christian Watson has a resurgence in his Dynasty value right now. First 4 years in the NFL, wide receiver 41, 68, 76, and 46. Okay, you've seen Dontavion Wicks get a lot of hype even recently. It was really last year, honestly, because of the yards per route run stuff. Wide receiver 58, 72, and 83. You know who the real wide receiver 1 in Green Bay is? People want to say it's Matthew Golden. It's Matthew Golden breakout season. There are 2 problems with that. Matthew Golden as a prospect was a late bloomer that didn't really have the production profile to back up all the hype that was warranted when he ended up going in the late first. Didn't have it as a prospect, didn't have the college production, didn't really have the profile, even though he was blazing fast. He was a combine riser, right? And also, Tucker Kraft is the wide receiver 1 on that team. I don't know if you heard this or not, but if you're going to buy into a Packers wide receiver or pass catcher, it's absolutely Tucker Kraft.
Kraft was well on his way to a foundational asset before he went down the ACL.
And some people argue that he still should be. When you're looking at the 9 games he played in last season, 8 games, they had to buy 10, 27, 7, 13, 13, 19, 36, and then 5, and he got hurt in that game against Carolina.
Yep.
I mean, that's production from a pass catcher from the Packers that we haven't seen since Davante Adams. And so you did see it with the 4 stretch Christian Watson game back in his rookie year, where it's like we've never let go of that. But with Matthew Golden, again, the profile is not there. And also in his rookie year, like straight up the usage for him, he had 44 targets. And I understand that he wasn't on the field for half of the snaps most of the year. But also, he wasn't on the field for half the snaps most of the year. How often do you see a guy like that? And I just want to kind of back my case up. I'm going to go to the range of outcomes tool here on the predict tab over on the site. And I'm going to go to Matthew Golden here. And let's look at guys that have had Matthew Goldens. This is literally incredible. You type in Matthew Golden, age 22 season, 5 points per game. Who are the guys that actually made a legitimate jump? Parker Washington was one of them. Quentin Johnson was the other. Outside of that, there really isn't anything. Really isn't anything there. And personally, do I think Matthew Golden can compare to Quentin Johnson and Parker Washington? Maybe he can. Yeah, as a prospect, those guys weren't super strong prospects either, and so Matthew Golden would probably be a better prospect than those guys. The difference was those guys weren't on the Packers. That's the difference. That is the difference. That offense does not lend itself to high-end wide receiver production, and if it does, I think it's Tucker Kraft. That's my personal opinion. I think Tucker Kraft is going to be the lead pass catcher there, and I personally don't see Matthew Golden finishing any higher than a wide receiver 3 in fantasy football next year. Prove me wrong if you want to. But you're going to honestly have to wait before that because you're not going to see it anytime soon. And again, my take with Golden is that he's valued a little bit too high right now because I don't see him going up much in value if he doesn't actually do anything next year, which I would predict that he probably won't. And so in terms of where he's valued in dynasty leagues right now, I mean, you can still make some decent moves for Matthew Golden. He is holding a lot because he is a wide receiver that was drafted in the first round. And you have the situational change. I mean, he's going next to Devontae Adams right now. And I just want to compare these. I just want to compare this to you. I just want to give you, if you're a contending team and you have Matthew Golden, like literally there's no contending team on the face of planet Earth that should have Matthew Golden on their team right now because of where he's going. Let's compare Matthew Golden to Devontae Adams just for fun using the comparison tool. 5 points per game versus 16. All right, that's where the comparison ends. No more comparison there, right? You can make that trade, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, you can get Michael Pittman as well. Like, let's just for fun put Michael Pittman in that comparison as well. 5 points per game versus 12 points per game. Okay, you can't and even if Matthew Golden scores 9-10 points per game, you're still probably going to want Pitty and Devontae Adams. You're definitely going to want Adams, right? Okay,
and yes, we know this is not redraft, but there is an equilibrium point here.
No, but here's the thing:
gap between the production gets so significant and so drastic that the age is not irrelevant, but the age matters less than how significant that production gap is.
You want to know something though? This is the 10th round of Dynasty Startup Drafts.
Yeah,
it kind of is redraft at that point.
So at that point, you just take the guys that produce.
It's kind of redraft. These guys don't have any value for the most part, or have very little value, and so trading these guys, you're literally they each one of them amounts for approximately 1 to 2% of your roster value. When you get this low in Dynasty rankings, it's redraft. And do you want Matthew Golden on your redraft team, or do you want one of these guys? Even Tyler Algier, even DK, Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, DeAndre Swift, Terry McLaurin, Jacoby Myers, even QJ. Mike Evans is below him. George Kittle, you could flex over him. Cortland Sutton, even Waddle. I'm very, very confident that in this range of 10th to 12th round guys for Matthew Golden, there are at least a dozen guys that are going to produce higher than him next year. And if you're a contending team, it's a no-brainer. And people say, well, I'm a rebuild, reload. Should I still hold Matthew Golden? I don't think he's the worst hold in the world because of the upside that he does have. But regardless, can I find other upside shots that I like in this range over Matthew Golden? Jaden Higgins is right there. I probably prefer Higgins, to be honest with you. Travis Hunter is only 8 spots ahead of Matthew Golden on Keep Trade Cut. Travis Hunter is. I'd rather take the shot on Romeo Doubs, to be honest with you. So, I mean, RJ Harvey's creeping down into that range now. So, yeah, I think there are younger players I would
rather take the shot on Christian Watson as well.
I actually would too. And so, regardless, with Golden, it's a personal take. I don't see it happening with him. I think Kraft's the guy there. I think Christian Watson could even be the guy. Regardless, I just think that the Packers wide receivers are not going to produce. I don't think Matthew Golden's going to produce. I personally don't think he's the type of player that could be a dominant fantasy asset anyways. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, but right now I'm not rostering him anywhere.
Yeah, and then the last guy here, I won't spend too much time on this one because he's a quarterback, Joe Burrow. This one is really it's pretty simple for me. He's a non-rushing quarterback who gets injured a lot, who has really high upside when he's, cooking. History shows us that Joe Burrow doesn't really start cooking until the second half of the year anyways. And that's if he stays healthy for all the season. I mean, he's gotten injured, I think, in half of the years that he's been in the league, which is significant at that point. Best ability is availability. And while he's going to always be ranked very highly because of what his upside is when he is on the field, it just isn't enough for me to say that, hey, I'm going to not take a shot on a rushing upside QB in the same value range as Joe Burrow and take a shot on Joe Burrow instead. I understand in some league formats this can be different when you get big play bonuses. Obviously, he's tied to Jamar Chase. If you have a 6-point passing touchdown format, it's going to be a little bit of a different case here. This is more for standard formats where you're looking at 4-point passing touchdowns where he is going to be very close to where Daniels and Lamar are going and Caleb Williams, if not back-to-back with them, or maybe even just ahead of them. If you have to pay a small premium on top of Joe Burrow to get Lamar, Daniels, or Caleb Williams, I think it is worth doing personally. And again, this is a guy who's consistently a second round top 24 valued asset who is a cornerstone. There are just guys that I think are better shots to take who have better consistent upside from a production perspective, and honestly seem to be a little more insulated than Joe Burrow is with how his value does fluctuate when he goes down with injury, which is very often. The one thing with Burrow that we did see during the season this past year is he fell into the third round, and that was when we were like, okay, bye Burrow, bye Burrow, bye Burrow. He's not going to be not playing for the rest of the season. He will be back in December, comes back in December, actually earlier than that, like Thanksgiving, I think.
It was Thanksgiving.
And what ended up happening, Burrow went right back up. You got a 10% value win immediately, and he was priced right back to where he was previously, almost. And that's where he settled at this point in time. So after you saw that dip, just what we predicted, he's being priced where he always is. And then people will factor in the risk again once he gets injured, and then he'll fall in value again. So you just kind of want to consistently play the market, play the value spikes and the value dips with Burrow. And right now, where he's currently being priced, Daniels, Lamar, and Caleb are the two guys that I'm gunning for, or the three guys that I'm gunning for specifically.
Yeah. So again, understand a lot of these are price takes, market price takes, and if you can't get the price we're advocating for, then don't sell them. But we see these players going for these prices. A lot of them are just market plays, and some of them are just our stubborn little player takes that we have, and they're kind of fun to have when you make content. I mean, it's what makes it fun. And so we appreciate you guys. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. If you want to get sales specific to your Dynasty team, you can do that. We offer personalized advice for your team in the form of a team blueprint and give you all of that with all of the stuff that comes with our membership at the link below, and we'd love to have you join the community. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you here very soon.